But first, another source of chaos is, of course, our trains. 4 in 5 services were cancelled today as 40,000 RMT workers walked out.
And more's to come, with passengers expected to face 5 days of misery this week. But the RMT boss, yes, Mick Lynch, he said from a picket line this morning that the government know what they need to do to reach a settlement.
Well, we're out on strike again this morning in pursuit of a settlement. The government and the companies have not put any fresh proposals to us. They know what needs to be done to move towards a settlement, how to work through the problems and get to some documentation that we could all support. But that's not happened so far. We're hoping in the next few days that they will come to us and propose more meetings and more sessions of negotiations. But at the moment, that's simply not there. The government has let these strikes go ahead, and that's unfortunate. But that seems to be their position at this time.
Well, joining us now is former RMT Assistant General Secretary Steve Hedley. Thanks for joining us today. I mean, these strikes are going nowhere, are they? They don't seem to be making any progress.
Well, I mean, look, the reality is privatisation has been an absolute disaster. And we have the worst of all worlds now. We have the government really getting the train operating companies to manage the system rather than actually run it. The government are interfering in the negotiations in a negative way. And it really, if you did your sort of neo-fascist resume of where the country is, bring in the army.
I don't think that's neo-fascist.
Well, yeah, you brought me on to get my opinion. So there you go. And we have a situation where capitalism isn't working. We've got the NHS in crisis because it's been underfunded.
Yeah, but we're here to talk. We're here to talk, Steve, about the RMT, where the median pay of your members is about just under £40,000, about £38,000, so quite significantly above the average.
How much are you on?
It's not really relevant. We're not on strike.
We're not on strike. In the private sector,
nobody would notice if you did go on strike, would they?
Well, I think they would if no one was sitting in this chair.
I'll tell you what would happen if we went on strike. Steve, what would happen if we went on strike is that we'd be replaced. And the point is that the RMT members, they're essentially holding the whole country to ransom.
But you can't. But really, I know you're reading everything off your auto cue there because you're just standing in for somebody.
Well,
but can you come up with something original? Can you come up with something original?
Yeah, you're holding the country to ransom. Right?
The government are holding the country to ransom. They're the ones that are stopping the negotiations. The government are the ones who are preventing the train operating companies come to an agreement with the RMT. So they're holding the country to ransom, not the unions.
So where's your original solution to this problem?
My solution is to give people an inflation pay rise.
That's not original.
Sorry?
That's not original. You said that we had nothing original to say.
Well, you asked me a question.
What is your original solution?
Okay then. Well, let's have a complete change of the economic system that we have. Let's have workers' councils take control in the country. See how your army get on then. Can they run the railway?
That's communism. No one wants communism in this country.
Is that original enough?
No one wants communism in this country.
Realistic.
What we want is our public services for which we're paying ever higher taxes to work properly.
So we've got the sort of the variation of a British fascist party rolled out in front of us who want to bring in the army.
Sorry,
unfortunately, the army can't run the railways, can they?
Well, we didn't actually suggest the army did.
Well, you did.
But
you were reading it off the auto cue. You couldn't come up with an original idea, could you?
No,
I was listening.
If you were listening, you would have heard that the context of the army suggestion was the NHS. Although I have to say, I suspect that the army would do a better job of running the railways than is being done right now.
I suspect Colonel Blimp could do a better job than you two reading out off the auto cue.
Let's try and be positive, shall we, Steve? As opposed to negative. It is the new year after all. So you want an inflation-linked pay increase. What about the productivity improvement as opposed to the old archaic Spanish working practices that exist across a large part of the railways?
What archaic Spanish working practices?
Well, for example, you have to sort of decide voluntary working on Sundays, for example.
So do you not have voluntary working on Sundays?
The property managers in Euston can't do some property management maintenance in St Pancras because it's too far to walk. These are the sort of archaic practices.
They work for different companies.
No, they don't work for different companies. They work for Network Rail.
But they're in different regions.
No, so you're wrong. It's like you. Give me a break. It's 400 yards down the road,
It's like you saying, why don't you go up and do something for ITV upstairs because you don't work for them.
So you don't
work for a different region.
So you just want more pay, but with no productivity improvements whatsoever. That's not a realistic world that everybody lives in.
The realistic world is you and your mates who you actually help, you come on here as repeaters for, have got massive tax breaks. You're offshoring money.
What?
What are you talking about,
You're
Steve?
offshoring. You're offshoring
What are
money.
you talking about?
You're avoiding tax.
Steve, you have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm talking about the rich in this country who offshore tax. Are you trying to say that doesn't happen?
Hang on a minute. You were talking about us two. You were talking about us.
I said your mates. I said your mates.
You said you and your mates, and you just accused us.
Sorry, have I rattled your cage?
Yes, you have.
Have you got something offshore as well?
Absolutely nothing
No,
whatsoever.
nothing. Have you not?
Nothing whatsoever. Although, frankly, I'd quite like to have
yeah, I
this
bet
offshore.
you would.
Yes, I would, because I don't think
for the Hitler Youth like you are.
that my taxes are well used in this country, and I thoroughly
object. Why don't you leave then? Why don't you leave?
I thoroughly
why don't you leave?
Why don't you stop libeling people?
Else?
Why do you assume I've got mates who run rail train companies? I haven't got any mates.
I didn't say that.
You said my mates in the system who run the railways.
I said your mates who are offshore money.
The reality is, you just want more cash.
You've got mates who are offshore money, aren't you?
Nonsense.
Yes, you have. About?
All you want to do is you want more cash for ever worse services. I think people are happy to pay for proper, decent railways and public services.
Do you understand, right? Do you understand that the money that the government are paying the train operating companies is actually getting paid out to shareholders? Do you understand that's where it's going?
I do.
Of course he does.
Hundreds of millions.
Of course I understand that. And I've said to your colleague, Mick Lynch, right, you've spoken, now let me stop.
I'm not having Spanish
I've spoken to Mick Lynch and I agreed with you. I agreed with you. You shouldn't be sending money offshore.
The reality is, right, that if that money wasn't paid out to shareholders and it was paid out to the people that actually run the railway...
As long as they run them properly, efficiently, into a timely fashion, like happens in Switzerland.
All right, let's
if that money was paid to the workers
here.
instead of the shareholders, there wouldn't be a problem, would there?
But you've got to have modern, contemporary working practices rather than the archaic practices like you've got.
Sorry?
Yeah, we work in the private sector.
Yeah, and look, it's working out very well for you, isn't it?
Well, I tell you what, it's not working out very well in the rail services, is it? Where no one's at work.
It is a private sector in the railways.
It's not.
Have you not understood that?
Have you not understood that the state is subsidising the railways to £1 billion a month?
And it's all going into...
And
most of it's going into the pocket of shareholders.
I want to help you find a solution.
Oh, you seem like it.
I do, but you don't seem to want to talk about productivity, do you? You don't want to talk about some modern-day practices that helps the industry. No one else in the UK has guaranteed...
Let me know when I can speak.
Well, I'm just asking you a question.
You have said quite a lot, I would say.
You made all sorts of factuous
You've asked me on here to explain my position, but you're not giving me the chance.
No, what you've actually done is sat there...
Would you like me to speak?
I'm not sure frankly, I'm not sure what's going to come out of your mouth, because
we're in a similar situation. We're in a similar situation, aren't we?
You sat there
What's going to come out of your mouth? I see that it's up there on the auto cue.
You sat there and you're unfortunately not the auto cue. You sat there and accused me of being an advert for the Hitler Youth. How do you justify that? Well, because that is downright offensive.
You're an absolute fascist, right? You're
ridiculous.
You're a fascist.
It's actually quite laughable.
You sit here.
Listen, honestly, this is actually a joke. It is actually a joke. If you think that you're
like Borat and LEG.
You're an embarrassment for your industry. You're an embarrassment for unions. How can you justify yourself?
It's actually laughable.
It really is laughable.
You come on here and read out an auto cue and get paid thousands of pounds. You're asking me how I justify myself.
I think you've dug your own grave. I think we'll move on. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure
for joining us. I don't think it has it? Thank you.